Hello and welcome to another lesson on Microsoft Word. Today we'll be talking, this is actually going to be a bit of a mini lesson, and we'll be talking about lists. Lists are one of these things that we have to make on a regular basis, and we've worked in the past with using indent tabs to make things nicely formatted across a list if you want to have multiple items on the same line. But realistically, the most common type of list you're going to make is one that's either bulleted or is 1, 2, 3 or 1A, 1B, etc. So Microsoft Word has a lot of built-in functions already for that, and they're pretty easy to use. So to start off with, let's look at the autocorrect way of doing things. So autocorrect, as you recall, when you type, say, mistype a word like the, and we type a T-E-H, let's zoom in a bit, T-E-H, it automatically corrects as soon as you hit space. Well, likewise, if Word thinks that you're trying to make a list, whether that's bulleted, numbered, or lettered, it will automatically create that for you. So if you start off by typing a dash, and you hit space, Word thinks that you are creating a bulleted list. So as you can see, the autocorrect, which is indicated by this little, pardon me, lightning bolt here, has indented our line. It's created the first line indent as being 1/4 of an inch, and that's lining up with our bullet and our hanger. So everything after that is going to be another 1/4 inch later for a total of 1/2 inch. So as soon as you start typing, every time you hit enter or return, you end up with a new line that is automatically going to continue in that list. So if I type a few items, my list is nice and continuous. So simple for anything you list. You can also list large paragraphs. So if I were to type, let's say, a whole bunch of information, let's say this is Sparta. And we yell it, and we're going to yell it a whole bunch of times. Just, I don't know, I don't feel like typing out an entire paragraph worth of stuff, so just ignoring the autocorrect for a second here, because I incorrectly copied and pasted this. As you can see, my lines continue all as a single element, all as a single paragraph within this one bullet point. So if I just start backing things up so that it all text all wraps properly. So as you can see, multiple lines. If we keep going, multiple lines will keep building onto this particular item in the list, and the indentation will remain the same. And a new bullet will only appear when I press the Enter key. So let's create that list again, item 1. Now let's say item 1 has some subpoints. So I can have subpoint 1. Now the way that I did that was I simply hit enter or return. I'll do it again, which automatically creates a new bullet, but what we're doing is we're creating a new list level. So by hitting tab one more time, I'm tabbing over to the next level. I'll call that one subpoint 1, subpoint 2. Now if subpoint 2 has some more information that I need, I can also go and create yet another sublevel. And so on. So every time I tab over, Microsoft Word is adding in a new bullet. So let's say we have a whole bunch of information. I'm going to undo all of that. What's happening here? Let's say we've got a few items listed, and we want to turn that into a list retroactively, which is to say after the fact. I can highlight those items and simply hit the bullet list, and it'll automatically add bullets. Now, Microsoft Word also allows for other list types. So instead of a bulleted type, you might need something that follows a specific organization scheme. So like a numbered list of questions or a numbered list of answers. So if we simply type the number 1 and hit space, nothing happens. But it's common to format numbered lists by going 1 period and then hitting start. or space rather. And as you can see, it automatically continues with our list following standard number formatting, and it'll just keep going and going and going, which is quite nice. You can also format your list with one bracket, and that'll work as well, or one dot bracket, and that'll work. So those three versions will be recognized automatically by Microsoft Word. Now, if ever you don't want this to start an automatic list, you can always hit the autocorrect and do undo automatic numbering, or you can simply hit Control Z, and that will also undo the numbering, but it'll allow you to keep your typing. Other list formats that it supports, it should support Roman numerals. Let's take a look. Yeah, it supports Roman numerals. So if you're doing I, that should go, whoopsie, I. And as you can see, it goes on with our numbering scheme. If I hit enter one more time, it's going to continue that list, but I can tell it to quit the list by hitting backspace, and the indent stays the same, so I just hit backspace again and one more time, and I've basically cleared out all that formatting that it's added for me. These lists also support sub-levels as well, so if I hit tab, it comes up with a new sub-level, and these are all just built in. You can do capital letters, you can do lowercase letters, and so on. With most of these list formats, you can also start, you should also, no, that's right, you have to do it later in the list. If we have, say, item 1, and then some big paragraph of text, and we can actually continue the list simply by typing the next number in our list. So normally, simply typing number 3 shouldn't start a list. No, it doesn't. But if a number 1 and a number 2 exist, even if we clear and we're no longer in the list, by typing number 3, it automatically opens back up that list. So these bullet points are automatic formatting for a bulleted list. And then when we have a numbering style list, we have ones all like these. These are all presets. They're all built right into the library. And these are what are called single level lists. So either bullets or numbers, those are single level lists. But as soon as you add a new level by pressing tab, it converts over to a multi-level list. Now, a multi-level list, the basic format will be decided by what you use as your first level, and you can choose to change how that multi-level list looks. I can do this, for example. Wouldn't want to do that. That multi-level listing basically uses the style elements for headings and subheadings. You can have, as you can see here, heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're not going to go into this too much, but it's really useful if you're doing this in a really, really long document that has lots of rules. So you might see this like very useful in laws, for example. So there are all sorts of these lists built in. Now, you can also define your own multi-level list. So if you want to go define new multi-level list, here is basically our level, and we're not going to base it off of this. So actually, let's go to not that one. Let's go to this one, and we're going to define our multi-level list based off of that format. So we like that format already. So this list, you can see level 1 is just numbers with brackets, 1 close bracket, and level 2 is A, B, C, D, etc., close bracket, and then level 3 is a Roman numeral. This is a nicely defined list. It makes it a very clear differentiation within the levels, and then now you can see it adds a second level of bracketing and now periods. So I mean, most lists you really shouldn't be getting into this level of sub-numbering, but it's obviously well defined. So you can within your multi-level list, you can set what you want for each level to look like, if it's going to be number style, if it's going to be written words, anything like that. You've got tons and tons of options for your multi-level list. It can even be bullets. It can be the first one can be a number, and then all those below it can be a bullet. And then you can also choose your alignment, how far out you want the bullet to start, and how far out you want the indent to go. So all very nice if you want to define your own list. Also, if you'd like, you can define your own bullets. So under bulleted lists, we can choose, say, a check mark. Oopsie, there we go. And then Microsoft Word will pick some other item, some other bullet to take over for the next portion of the list. And you can also likewise define your own bullet. So it can be a picture if you want to pick from your own photos library. I don't really recommend that. It's kind of a quick way to make a document look extremely cheesy. You can also choose a symbol, and this symbol can be anything from the symbols library right in Microsoft Word. Now this is a font called Windings, and Windings has always just been lots of different symbols. So this one, for example, you can do like a little finger pointing. Pardon me. You can also choose other fonts and look at their symbols if you want to end up using those. Windings is one of the fonts that is almost entirely just symbols, whereas other fonts are going to be actual letters and numbers. So you can feel free to use those. Anyways, that's pretty much the important thing about lists in Microsoft Word. I'm going to create a small assignment, and that will be in your Microsoft OneNote so that you can play around with lists, and it'll have some pre-made text and that sort of thing for you to play with. So feel free to go back to this list, or to this video, I should say, if you want to review how to make these lists all work for you. Oh, you know what? Actually, there is one more thing I want to talk about, and that is changing the level of lists once you've already got a list going. So we're going to just go with the basic bullet. Okay, so let's say we've already got our items in our list, and we want to make this go further. All I'm doing is putting my cursor in front of the word and hitting tab. If I don't like that, if I say accidentally put this in one sub level that I don't want it to be in, if I hit backspace, what it does is it actually clears the list. Okay, so now the list formatting is gone. The indent stays there, but unfortunately, hitting backspace once again still doesn't help us, and hitting once more just puts me onto the previous line. If I hit enter again, it'll bring the item back down to list level 1. But that's not really the fastest way to do things. What is the fastest way to do things is basically to do an alternative function version of tab, which is simply to hold down shift and then press tab. So say, for example, I tab this item out. Now, if this is supposed to be, item 3 is supposed to be completely untabbed here, all I have to do is hit shift, tab, tab. It brings it back in the opposite direction. Pardon me. So that's the last thing that you really need to remember there, is that it is occasionally possible to mess up your lists, to accidentally put things where they're not supposed to be. That shift tab and tab will help you move items within their lists to different levels as you see fit. So once again, there will be an assignment in your OneNote, or a little worksheet in your OneNote to test out with paragraphs. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this mini lesson, and we'll go on to something new next time. Thanks.